Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of The Magicians, a fantastic season finale. Everything has been leading up to this. Obviously, oh God, it's so good. So much to kind of talk about. Obviously, the group is trying to come up with a plan with what they do about this whole situation. You kind of find out more about the story, in the book and what happens to the knight's daughter and what she does. So much like Julia becomes a full-blown god. Like I said, it was going to go one of two ways. Either she was going to become a god or she's going to lose it all. Obviously, I'm going to go back to that in a little bit later on, but it's so neat. It's like, oh my gosh, she gets visited by another god and it's like, yo, you got to go out, do godly stuff now. It's like, come join with me. I'll show you what to do down the god path. What's interesting, because the episode never really gets into it, but Iris talks about, is it Iris? Yeah, it's Iris. Talks about a bigger plan, and it's like, what bigger plan? Julia never got an answer to that, but obviously it's just like, oh yeah, let's show you kind of what it's all about being God. Like, oh, you can create your own world. Basically, telling her to leave her feelings and all her connections behind. That as a god, she has bigger things to move on to. You kind of, it's like, yeah, we can do a little here and there, like heal some people, kids, a few sick kids here and there, but overall, it's like be focused on this greater plan. What grand plan that is, I don't know. Something that the gods are concocting. Is this also why they were kind of pissed off about what, I mean, yeah, I know they were pissed off about like what went down in season 2's finale, but then I'm kind of like, I don't know, like, was there an ulterior motive to doing that too? Is it because they wanted humans to kind of be out of the way so they can, not having magic, not being a nuisance, being the annoying little ants they are, so they can do whatever they need to? I mean, them being gods and everything, you would think that wouldn't affect them. I don't know. But what's kind of interesting is that Julia gives Quentin a little bit of magic, enough to do one spell. So basically, taking what they end up meeting the lady who built the castle. Her name is Callie. She's the architect. Turns out she's actually the witch from the story too, which is kind of interesting. Especially the way they make it seem like, oh, the witch is the bad guy and everything. And so it's like, so what's the purpose of all that? It's like, in particular, like obviously this whole thing, everything that the young knight Tiss went through was for the purposes of saving her dad, but that was also part of everything because of the monster that was kind of sealed within. Well, because there was like multiple guards, weren't there too? I think because it wasn't multiple monsters that were locked in, or was it multiple monsters, or was it just the multiple guards? Because when it came down to it, Quentin asked Aura, the knightess, and it's like, where's everyone else? It's like, oh yeah, this thing killed all of them. So it's like, this prison is literally only holding this one thing, showing you just how freaking scary it is. But what's interesting learning from Callie, I also like what they did about Prometheus in this too, because it seems she has a connection to Prometheus. In this world, Prometheus he's the one who made the keys. Maybe they went over that at the beginning of this season, but I don't remember. But also, he's the one who gave magic to the humans. And I guess I'm curious about, because like obviously from Greek mythology, Prometheus is the one that suffered the ramifications of the gods because he gave humans fire. So I'm wondering, was fire in this particular instance, like, you know, because they kind of mess with mythologies a little bit in this, was it actually a metaphorical fire, or was it a fire that was born because he gave humans magic and they were able to create fire? Either way, it's kind of interesting finding out that he was kind of on human side, and he was basically saying that they would be the ones to save us all. So meaning Prometheus knew something dangerous was coming that would not be something even the gods could stop. I would assume it's this thing that's locked up in what we find out is Black Spire, which I'll kind of get to that in a second. But it's like, how did he know what he knew? I mean, I guess he's very powerful and all that. But it's kind of interesting because we find out the reason why he was in his weakened state was because he basically took all his god powers and put them into the 7 keys. So he had no god power left. But the thing I like finding out is actually White Spire. It's actually based on Black Spire. Black Spire was the only thing that was on Fillory way back in the day. But then Amber stumbled upon it. It's like, oh, I like this design. So he flipped Fillory upside down and he made White Spire, you know. So I was like, that's so fascinating. That's so interesting. And I think on some level you could tell Callie was kind of impressed that Quentin knew that. Like, it's like, oh yeah, like this and that about like, oh, like the rumors and word that had spread about White Spire's design and everything. And just how like flawless, like, you know, the design it was based on was about, you know. So Callie, much like most gods, really doesn't care too much about humans, but in this particular case, she's doing it as a favor to Prometheus. What I am curious about is what, I guess, it didn't matter because I was wondering like what key Quentin gave her. I was like, what's the purpose of that? It's like, well, because this way she can feel some closeness to him because those keys are basically made up of what he was. So there's a little bit of him in every bit of those keys. So I guess touching even one of them kind of brought her closer. Obviously, she's like, it was a long time ago, but it's still kind of, you can tell, rattled her a little bit to feel that magic inside of those keys. So. But what really got me was what Quentin decided to do. He's like, when it's all said and done, I'm going to take Aura's place in the Black Spire. Everyone was like, you going to what? He's like, because like she's been trapped in there for long enough and someone has to stay with that thing to make sure that it doesn't escape. And so he was like, let me be the one. Like, no. Like, it's like, well, let someone else be it. But it's like, for Quentin, it's like, no, Alice already sacrificed herself. She died to make sure that the beast survived. Elliot already gave up so much, becoming a king and everything so that they could do what they needed to do back in season 1. He had to give up his entire life here. So it's like, it's my turn to sacrifice because everyone else has already got their stuff. Even like, didn't ever really break it down, but obviously like Margot, she's the High King of Fillory, so she can't do it. And Katie's already lost and sacrificed so much with Penny and just so much of her life she's lost because of this whole situation, so can't ask her either. And it's like, well, it's like no one's asking Josh to do it. It's like, that's not fair either. But for Quentin, it's like, this quest was kind of started by me, so it's up to me. This is kind of what my destiny is, to do this. And I'm like, man, that's so selfless. And it's like, holy crap. Because it's kind of what Callie was talking about, basically the tests were teaching about sacrifice. It's what each one of the tests on this quest was meant to teach. And Quentin took that and was like, okay, this is what I can do. So then all the while, you have the situation with Henry, him talking to Alice, because Alice wants to forget everything, because she's like, if magic is back, she's going to be tempted to go down that route again. Just because I'm wondering if she had never become a Niffin, would she end up the way she is? I mean, to be fair, it's like, it's just everything in her life that kind of led her down the path, like being where she is right now and being who she is right now, whether it be her family and all her experiences, the way they raised her, it all made her who she is right now, even becoming a Niffin, knowing and experiencing more magic. But for her, it's like, hey, if I can just wipe all those memories away and become a new person, then everything would work out better. It's kind of like, what's the plan, So, which Henry agreed to help her out with. It's just kind of interesting because Alice trusted herself that little with this whole situation. So, interestingly enough, they do, when it's all said and done, so many damn storylines happening at the same time. You had everything going down in Fillory. You got Finn taking over as queen. Turns out Irene and one of the travelers from the library were hunting fairies. And the queen making a sacrifice she did. It's like, okay, you kill me and touch none of my other fairies, and then I promise you can have me. Which is like, dude, that sucks. And it took even me by surprise, even the queen by surprise, the fact this Finn actually shed tears for her, because no matter what the situation is, even if they were enemies, it's like she recognizes what the queen is doing. She's sacrificing herself for her people and understands why the queen has done everything that she's done. Yes, the queen has kind of been an asshole and everything this entire season and last season, but to be fair, it's understandable why. She's been doing it for the future of her people, and you can't fault her for that. Because, obviously, like, the people of Fillory, like, Elliot and Margot and Finn have all been trying to do the same thing for Fillory, so like I think she can understand, because also like the queen is kind of like a mother to all these fairies, being the queen and everything. So I think that kind of hits Finn on another level. I am curious to know what she said to Finn before she left. But what gets me, and obviously is going to be the biggest thing continuing forward, is the deal she made with Irene and the dude. It's like, you hunt any more fairies, this deal is off. And I'm curious what's going to happen if they break this deal. Because even in Fairy Queen, it's like, oh, you made a deal that you have no idea, like, it's going to kind of basically fuck you over in the end. And Irene's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. But the queen is like, I might not be alive to see this deal go through, you're right, but I'll die a queen instead of a mediocre woman trying to gain power. And that pissed Irene off hard. Because that's what I'm wondering, like, in the long run, is she going to get a bigger slice of the magic? Because, like, why are you cooperating with the library? What do you get from this? I mean, interesting considering you were literally the last member of your family. You have nothing. But I guess at the same time, it's like, well, that means she doesn't have to share any of that, her family's wealth, with anyone else. It's all hers. So I guess that's the benefit. But what also tripped me up is the fact is that Henry has a deal with the library as well. Has he always had a deal with the library? Or is it something that subsequently happened after he got his vision back, like, I mean, after everything that happened with him with the Beast, like, how long has he had this damn deal with the library? That's something we still don't know. And he ended up amending the deal, you know, when the kids went off the Black Spire. And sadly, things spiraled from there. You had Elliot killing the Thing, or at least potentially killing it with the God-killing bullet. And it's like, what the hell are you doing? And it's like Elliot talking sweet, being like, no, like, I'm not going to let one of my best friends go through this. It's like, oh, that's so sweet. Because you know, obviously Margot was in on the plan too, because she was telling, like, Elliot not to kind of, you know, to be careful as well. So it's like, oh, that worked out in the end. So potentially, but we do see, they didn't notice it, but we noticed it, that the Thing left its body and went into Aura. So, because it's kind of interesting learning from Aura what this thing is all about. That basically this thing is almost like a child. It needs attention and love. And the moment it gets bored, that's the problem. So you always want to keep it entertained. It's like a child that needs a lot of love and attention. And maybe that's why it kind of wreaked the havoc it did, because the gods weren't showing it the love and attention that it needs. I mean, I'm wondering, what the hell was the purpose of this thing? Is this thing like a god in itself? I mean, because the thing is, this thing is even more powerful than a god. So how, I mean, that just seems a little interesting. You end up making something that's even more powerful than you. I feel like gods are too narcissistic to do something like that. So the question is, like, how did this thing get so powerful that even gods couldn't beat it or couldn't deal with it? And how did you trick it into getting locked up? I mean, I guess that's kind of like the whole thing. Like, I mean, it's a powerful prison and all, but still, like, I guess, you know, the knight himself needed to be bait. And obviously Aura stayed behind to be bait as well, to make sure that this thing stayed locked up. And that's kind of such a shame, because we never actually get to know. I was like, oh, will we get to see her kind of going forward in the future as recurring? Oh, no. But also another question comes up. When this thing leaves your body, do you die? I mean, the person's body it was in before only potentially died because Elliot shot it, so. But beyond that, obviously, really quickly, running down everything else, you have Alice betraying everyone and burning the keys, because for two reasons. One, she knew about what she would do with magic, but she was basically saying people in general are too evil to be trusted with magic. She basically freaked out, because it's like, we're just going to make mistakes all over again. But once again, it's that situation that Quentin brought up to her that she's still not listening to, is the fact is people are going to make mistakes, and they will never learn from their mistakes if you don't let them make them in the first place. But for Alice, and what it really stemmed from was herself. She wants to say it was for the greater good, but she was doing it because she was selfish, because she didn't believe that she could, you know, stop herself if magic came back, that she wouldn't kind of get swept up in it and kind of basically become who she was as a nymph and just becoming obsessed with magic. She didn't want to be that person anymore, hence trying to erase her memories and everything. But lo and behold, things change when Julia shows up, sacrificing her god magic to make sure that to recreate the keys. Because the thing is, for her, it's like what set her off was the fact is that Quentin's bravery. The fact is that he was willing, that even if it meant dying, he was going to complete this quest. He was willing to do whatever it took, even sacrificing himself in this sense. And that bravery is what kind of reminded Julia that they were worth it, that that's where she needed to be, and this is what she wanted to use her god magic for. Also, completely forgetting, the fact is, like, her god name was Lady of the Tree, because of what she did, because she accomplished what Lady Underground wanted her to do, and I guess that kind of fits her name too, because Lady Underground, because she was Hades' wife, so I guess it kind of makes sense. Which, to be fair, Hades said one of the underworld, but what was her position as a god? Because she had to probably most likely be Lady Underground before she married Hades, not unless it was what she got after being just married to Hades, which would suck, because it's like, you literally only got a title for marrying, like, the king of the underworld, and it's like, that sucky kid, you know. So I like to think she got the title before she married Hades, but who knows. And so it's like, oh, we got the 7 keys, we got the magic working. I was like, yeah, I was scared. I was like, oh man, this thing is going to come up and start killing you all, isn't it? It's like, nope. Henry, the library traveler, and Irene show up, siphon out the magic. It gets restored to the library, and it's like, yo, what the hell is going on? Hard cut. Magic is back in the world, but obviously, much like the library wants it to be, it's all, you know, siphoned up and everything, so they can distribute it however they want to. You have to go about things, forms and stuff like that. We see Henry visiting Alice. Alice remembers everything, and it's like, you don't understand. So I'm guessing they did what they did because they thought like Alice did. Because Alice did what she did because she's like, okay, we don't have to worry about the keys or the magic anymore because this thing is already dead because she saw it get shot, so she thought it was dead too. Well, no, because then she saw Aura later on and was like, oh shit, this thing is not dead. So now she knows that it can jump from body to body. And basically, this is all her fault and Henry's. Like, once again, I don't know whether it's because Henry was so desperate to try and get his school back from Irene that he was willing to make this deal. Did he also already know that Irene had a deal with the library too? Or did he make a deal with her after finding out the truth and about everything with the fairies and all that? I don't know. That's all I can assume. Because at first I was just thinking about that. I was like, what did the Queen's magic go to of them needing the fairy? It's like the magic they needed to use to siphon. That's kind of had to be it. Because remember, they wanted to use Julia's powers. But I guess the power of a queen, because she said basically her power represented the power of like 50 fairies. So. But man, oh man, is that mindfuck ending too. Because it's like, basically what they did is they erased everyone's memories, I guess gave them new identities. At the very least, their memories are wiped of magic and everything associated. Everything they've been through these past 3 seasons has been wiped from their memories. And now they living regular lives, different lives. So like I said, how much of their lives are still intact? It seems like certain aspects are still there because obviously we see Katie kind of associated with drugs. It's interesting because the Penny we're dealing with is 23 Penny, not the Penny from this timeline, because obviously he's still in the underworld, which I'm still curious, like, what the hell are we going to do with that storyline? There's already 2 Pennies there. There can't be 2 Pennies for a long period of time. Can there? Especially because, Katie's going to obviously want Penny back, but this Penny only has feelings for Julia, which is a complicated situation all on its own, which I wonder would that become a thing in the future because once again, I always still kind of felt like there was always going to be a Quentin and Julia, but I guess it's like there's been things there. She's always known how he felt about her, but I guess it's like he met Alice and fell in love with her, so they're always just going to be best friends, I think. I don't know. That's how I'm interpreting that, but that was so good. It does seem like there is a little bit of deja vu kicking in because we saw Josh and Margot look at each other for a moment, almost like they recognized each other, but wasn't quite there. I was like, that's so good. Because this was the only way that the library was going to allow things, because this was what Henry's amendment to their deal was, because I guess if they didn't do this, that the library was going to have them killed anyway, because also they needed to be removed, like, they need to be removed from the equation, because if we don't stop them now, if we don't get them out of the way, that team would have just come together to try and stop the library. So I guess it's kind of a win-win situation all around. But that's the thing. Like, you literally heard about this thing. So like, why did they think it was dead too? What made them think to strike now? That thing, it's like scary. Like, obviously we know from Zelda that she didn't really know, because Alice talked to her, because she wasn't 100% sure that there really was a monster there and everything. But it's like, what made them decide to do this? Like, everything that happens now is on the library too, because of what they did. That freaking thing, it's free. To be fair, it's a culmination of a lot of people. But what I find fascinating too is it ended up in Elliot's body. How and when? Because the last time we saw that thing, it was in Aura's body. So I guess some point when they knocked everyone out to kind of swipe their memories, it jumped from body to body. That's why I'm also bringing up the question of like, well, what happens to people after it's in their body? As long as that person doesn't die, I guess they're still okay. So we might actually get to meet Aura more in the future, but cause what I saw was Henry had like a little vial by his hand. So I just, to be fair, I was like, cause I was thinking like, oh, is he going to help him? I thought it was like, oh, he's helping Elliot restore his memories, but it's like, it being the idiot I am, it's like, no, that's the same thing he gave to Alice, cause that was him wiping everyone's memories and giving them new lives and everything. So when did this thing get into Elliot? Now in retrospect, I guess it got to him some point in time, because that was Alice's point. It's like that thing has memorized their faces. It knows they're magicians, whether they realize it or not. With magic back, even though it's in its limited quantity, I guess it's not worldwide spread, because I guess like, you got Breakbills having a little bit of it, not a lot, but a little bit. But even though they don't have magic, they're still recognized as magicians, and this thing is taking an interest in them, in particular Quentin, which I'm wondering, because it's like, oh, things, when you going after the people you want, it's nice to have a friend. So I guess it immediately latched onto Quentin. I wonder why, because Quentin was the one trying to save it by saying like, no, don't do it. And the fact is that he was about to be its next entertainer. I guess maybe it learned that from being in Aura's body, and maybe in each person's body, it gets to know their memories and stuff like that. So it's in Elliot's head, so it really knows Quentin. And it's like, oh man. And because it even says, show me a card trick, because he was about to show it at the beginning. So maybe from that very moment, it's like, ooh, I like this human. So, like I said, a crazy season finale with so much built upon it. Obviously, we do know that the show is being renewed for a 4th season, which, yes, especially with a season finale like that, where the hell do we go from here? A thing that's more powerful than the gods themselves. Whatever plan the gods themselves have, what they're up to, our team of heroes no longer remembering who they are. And like I said, I love that it includes Josh. Josh is definitely going to be a regular a lot. Because it seemed like, oh, he was popping in and out, but it's like, no, he's going to be a regular next season. And so because I'm also, like I said, like that deal that Irene made is going to come back in some shape and form and fuck her in some way. It's like the moment anything or anyone hurts a fairy, the deal is broken. So I can only assume it's going to be something like that thing, which I keep calling it a thing because apparently it doesn't even have a name. It's going to accidentally kill a fairy, or just because like, oh, you're in my way and I'm going to kill a fairy, and that's going to break the deal. What that means, I don't know. Which is like, really, the gods are, because that's what I'm curious about too. Like, and that was kind of a question I don't know if I really asked too. Were the gods really just going to sit back and relax and let humans take back magic? Because like the gods were, took magic away from them to punish them. But I guess it's like, oh, if you actually went out of your way to actually get magic back, oh, well, more power to you. I mean, I guess it's that situation. We're going to punish you, but whatever you do in timeout, that's up to you. You get magic back, whoop-de-doo for you. So I don't know. And also, like, I mean, you would think they would pay a lot more attention, especially with this thing being apparently as bad as it is for even the gods themselves to lock it up. So it's like, why are you just sitting on this? Why aren't you doing anything? Has this thing subsequently killed any gods in its free time, I would assume one of the first people it would go after is Callie, not unless that's something we see next season. Callie's the one that built a prison for it, so. Oh yeah, and bringing up what I was getting to earlier, I brought it up, but it's like, yeah, I was leaning more to the fact is when it's all said and done, Julia's going to go off and be a god, which I was right, but it does seem like the other route came up too. Like I figured it had to be one of the two routes. I was like, because there's no way they're just going to let her keep god magic forever. It's like, no, she's either going to go off and become a god or she loses it. Turns out I was wrong because she does both. She goes off to become a god and then loses it. Obviously, she sacrifices it herself, but still, that sucks. Because this is one of those times you would want a god in your corner. So, like I said, it is just a series of events, and I guess you can make the argument that these break bill young adults with magics are continuous fuck-ups because it's one problem after another. To be fair, even Alice admits, because it's kind of funny because Alice kept blaming them last season because everything kind of went down in her mind. It's like, it's mine and Henry's fault because you did what you did and I did what I did, and that led to this thing. Like I said, because most likely they both thought it was dead, or they probably didn't think much of it. They didn't believe Alice when she tried to warn them about like, yo, that thing is out there and it's real and it's going to because I did like a line from Julia being like, yeah, I get it. I get why you're doing this because you're scared. She's like, you're thinking you're doing the right thing, but one day you'll look back on this and realize you weren't. It's like that day came pretty damn soon. So I'm curious to see what Alice does going forward because, obviously she blames herself, like, because like for her, it's like, that's the reason why she wanted all this done, because she was like, I'm going to be sad that I won't remember the fact is that I love you, Quentin, that I've always loved you, so, but you had Quentin be like, I'll remember for the both of us, which is doubly ironic because Alice still remembers, Quentin doesn't, so, ironic and just super sad, so, which is interesting too, because I just thought about that. Let's not forget, Finn is acting High King while Margot was away. It's like, well, Margot doesn't remember being Queen, so that means Finn, for whatever time has passed, did they give a time frame on how much time passed between Black Spire and the current, where they are right now? Whatever the case may be, yeah, like, Finn has had to be running, like, Fillory like that, so I would assume out of any place, Fillory would be the first place it hit, because, obviously, like, Black Spire is in Fillory, so did it wreak havoc in Fillory before coming to Earth, or did it just follow them back to Earth? In what shape or form? Like, so many different questions about that. I'm also curious to see what the hell the library is going to do now that, like I said, their main thing was like, oh, we're gonna send out magic and let people, only the right people have it. So it's just good and bad, because it's like, well, bad because now no one has magic to defend themselves against this thing, and this thing being as powerful as it is, will even the library with their amount of magic be able to do anything? Like, what's going to happen? Like, because obviously this thing is more focused on the main protagonist, but maybe it'll find itself drawn to the library and its magic, you know. Like I said, depending on what it knows, like, does it gain its knowledge from what Elliot knows now that it's in Elliot? I kind of get the feeling like it probably won't ever take over Quentin's body because it likes Quentin too much. Another thing too is, are the keys completely gone? Because that was the thing that was kind of brought up in the book, that Elliot was like, whoa, there's some little continuity. I might be a little drunk, but even I noticed there's a little continuity. It's like she puts it into the strange mask things, and then later on she has to put it in the lock. So it's like, like how does she have it both times? Which I guess, in all honesty, holy shit, that's crazy, because that's just like what happened, because they used it, they had the original keys, but they lost them, much like the book. And then Julia came and made a new set that they used. Holy shit, that's crazy. I didn't even think about that. They were already foreshadowing that dude, that's super smart. That had to totally be on purpose. That's super good. But the question I was bringing up is, are the keys completely gone? If not, doesn't that mean Julia's magic is still there? Just like Callie was able to feel Prometheus' magic in the original keys, which, you know, doesn't that mean if they got those keys back, I mean, would they be able to do anything? I mean, let's not forget those keys have magical abilities themselves, which I'm also curious about. Is their abilities the same? Those abilities came from Prometheus, so it's like maybe it's still potential that she created the same keys. They're filled with god magic, but it's like, I'm wondering, did Prometheus design them specifically I mean, obviously everything was tailored, supposed to be like, oh, you go through the trials and the only truly worthy should be able to go through the trials. So I guess they were all designed to have their specific abilities. But I wonder, did Julia copy those abilities into each key when she was making them, or do they all have new abilities? So could that be something that plays a role in the next season of them having those keys and each one having a different ability? I have no idea. I'm so excited to see what they do with season 4. It's going to be amazing. It's kind of interesting because we have one clear-cut antagonist this season. Like, obviously there were antagonists this season, but I feel like, because the last main antagonist they had was the Beast. And then that eventually spread into other stuff, Reynard and stuff. But then, like, this season, it was just kind of like the main thing was a quest, and there was no definitive, like, boss. We now got our boss for next season, if we were to put it in video games, setup. So I'm very curious to see what they do with it. Another season, I mean. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.